And I am so excited to be talking about how we can stand in the gap today, Curtis. This town hall is going to be something special. Glad you tuned in. Well, Curtis, it is so good to be back in this studio with you and to have our audience tuning in to talk about just the amount of things that are going on in our community and where we stand on it. And so I just want to throw this out there to you because I know we were earlier, before all the cameras came on, we were having a little retro conversation.
Right.
And I think, the topic today in this retro thing is going to be how do we go old school parenting?
Oh, I like that.
Back into this conversation, right?
Oh,
you see where I went with that?
I like that. Thank you.
I did something with that.
I like that. That's really good.
So let's just talk. I mean, currently right now, right? I mean, we're looking at some things, and I just want to throw some topics out before we dive into this town hall discussion. Okay? So, look, there's a lot going on in the world right now. There's a lot going on in our community right now. Let's talk about all the elephants in the room for just a minute. And then let's have a serious conversation about this town hall that we've got coming up that we need people to come to partake. So I'll throw this out there. There was an event last night in our community. I was present at the event, and I witnessed firsthand that it is possible to bring people together for one common cause, to make a difference, to bring their faith in God into the conversation, to bring their parenting and children into the conversation, to bring every avenue of education into the conversation, and to do it with our government officials and leaders being present. And so I saw that, I witnessed it, I saw the four corners in this event handling a world issue right here in Mobile.
That's awesome. It's not often that you get a chance to see all four corners. I think that you're right. You said there's a lot of chaos, a lot of madness in the world, a lot of darkness in the world right now. And what we don't realize is that we're all connected to it. As far away as we are from some of the things that are happening in the world in terms of battle and struggle for life, we're still struggling for life here too. And it gets amplified. And sometimes we miss it because we think that, how does that affect me? Well, you're constantly inundated with it, first of all. But you're also inundated with crime, mass crime constantly. You hear about someone being killed, or you hear about someone being robbed. You hear about someone becoming fatherless because they lost a parent because of violence. It's just dark. And I think that when you can gather people together under that understanding that without God, none of us can stand, you can really bring about change.
All right. Flip the topic. And I love what you said. Moving on the same thing, circumstances. Recently, in our own community here in Mobile, we witnessed that it is possible, and we're not going to dispute, we're not going to litigate, and we're not going to discuss the facts that we don't know.
Right.
But we do know that circumstances can happen. And in those circumstances, people can see things, right, wrong, or indifferent, that there's a perception or can be viewed. And we have to be compassionate to that view because there has to be understanding before you can dispute a view. And everybody's entitled to their view. And I think that we have to allow that conversation to happen. That conversation is not specific to where we're going with this town hall, but it is specific to the trust that's required between the community and the police, who are the community, policing together in this bigger public safety picture that you talk about.
Yeah, I think one of the things that's missing is empathy. We all can always be empathetic to one another. People can be empathetic to law enforcement. Law enforcement can be empathetic to the public. We are actually the public also. We're just tasked to do something that we don't ask every other person in the public to do. And that's a high calling. So you do want to pause if you're not that person who's pulled from the public to do that, and be empathetic to the task that you give law enforcement that they have to do 24 hours a day. But we cannot discount the importance of law enforcement also reciprocating that same feeling.
I think reciprocation is key because it has to be a two-way relationship. So let's fast forward now to standing in the gap.
Right.
We have found an opportunity to discuss the most important issues. And we've always said from day one, hey, we're going to have a real conversation regardless of what that is, right?
Right.
Okay. And so we're taking this real conversation, not necessarily on the road, but we're taking it out into the community. And we've got these town halls set for November 7th and the 14th. And I'm throwing the dates out there right now. They're at 6:30 p.m. on November 7th at the Bishop State Community College Business and Technology Center, Conference Center. And it's on the 14th at Dayspring Baptist Church off of Cody Road. Okay,
Right.
so now 6:30 to 7:30, 1 hour of your time can change the thousands of hours of the rest of your life and the life of your family members if we become more aware of the things that are out there. So it's a very small commitment for a very large outcome that we see. And now that we've got the formality of, hey, where you need to be and when you need to be there, because look, for a year we've been looking at Echo Stop as a live event, and we're sitting here live in the studio now. But we're also working under this mindset of Echo Stop Nation, which is it truly takes more than just all of us. It takes an entire Echo Stop Nation. This is going to require the community here to come together with the communities and other places to really make a difference. And so that transformative change starts with these town hall meetings, because we want to share information, to educate, but we also want the feedback.
Right. And it's about trying to figure out how do we bring that kitchen table conversation to fruition. We want to come out of the studio, right? And we want to go to where the people are and share with them what we know and what we need them to know, so that they may be able to apply it in their lives, because we know how difficult life is, right? We know how difficult it is to make ends meet, how difficult it is to stay optimistic in spite of the darkness that we see every day. And we understand how difficult it is to parent. We understand the complexities of parenting today. We understand that more often than not, we're dealing with single parent homes, for good or for bad. A lot of different reasons why that happens. But people come across very similar issues when there's a deficit in the rearing of a child that we are tasked to be responsible for, because God gives us children, not for them to be equal with us in making decisions, but we are to guide them and to teach them. And it's becoming more and more difficult to do that every day because of a lot of different reasons, technology being one, even though that sounds kind of oxymoronic, because you would think technology would be a benefit, right? But sometimes it's not.
Well, a good friend of mine told me that if you're going gray in the beard, that there might be some wisdom in age with that, right?
Absolutely.
But let me ask you something, because you said 3 words in that last little segment there.
Yeah.
And I think they're hugely important. The 3 words that I heard were know,
Okay.
understand, and deficit. And let me ask you this question, knowing how those 3 words are directly impactful to each other. We're saying we're hosting an event because we want people to know, but we also want to know.
Absolutely.
We're hosting an event because we want to share what we know so people can understand, but we also want to understand. And when you don't know or you don't understand, then there is a deficit. And I think that those 3 words are interconnected. And I think we have to get out, my opinion. I throw myself in, I'll drag you with me. You coming?
I'm always with you, bro.
Okay, I hear you. And I think that we have to also say, we're not just coming at this from a law enforcement perspective, but we're coming at this as parents.
Absolutely. That's been key. We've talked about that a dozen times or so. And think about this. Think about a doctor. A doctor, to be my doctor, has to be someone who practices medicine, right? If I needed a lawyer, I would want a lawyer who practices law, not just know it or know the fundamentals of it. A parent has such a high responsibility, much higher than those 2 professions that I just mentioned. But parenting in and of itself is not something that you just automatically have. Understanding parenting, the importance of it, it requires practicing. You have to practice being a parent. And let's face it, a lot of us don't practice well. And it's not because we don't have good intentions. Sometimes we don't have the time to really pause long enough and say, am I doing as much as I can? Does my child know that I'm responsible for him or her in everything that they do. Parenting is the most awesome role that you'll ever have in your life. And it requires us to practice, but it also requires us to listen and share information with one another, because you know things about parenting that I may not know. I may know things about parenting that you may not know. These are nuances, but these are things that until we're able to come together and sit down, like in this town hall discussion, and really meet as parents, not as law enforcement talking to parents, but parents talking to parents, we'll never actually be able to turn the spigot off or down and addressing some of the issues that we see.
Okay, so let me play a game of proverbial ping pong, if you will.
Oh, my goodness.
I'm going to throw something at
Okay.
you. You tell me what the response needs to be.
Okay. What you
Because
got?
what I'm sitting here thinking is, hey, there's a town hall. It's at 6:30 at night on a Tuesday. Okay, so I'm going to throw some responses out. How do you respond to this? It's an hour. It's at 6:30. I don't know if I have the time.
I would say, please make the time. It is extremely important for you to hear what we have to say about what you need to know.
There's kids in my life. I spend time with them, but I'm not their parent.
I would submit that we are always in a position to be a mentor and or a parent-like person to any person. Sometimes it doesn't matter the age, but we're accountable to one another.
To the parent that says they've tried everything they know how to do and they don't know what else to do, but their child's just not going in the direction they want them to, and they're struggling to find answers.
Look, I get it. The problem is this, is that none of us know it all. And the thing that you want to do is find out what you don't know and not be afraid to say, hey, I don't know this. That is the first step of gaining knowledge.
Last one. I'm not a parent of a child, but I have interest in making my community better. Do I come to the town hall?
Absolutely, because you may not be a parent, but someone sees you as a mentor or someone sees you as an example. Everyday kids are watching us, and you want to make sure that you, while they're watching you, that you can also educate them on things that they may not be receiving, because they may have that parent who is inundated with so many life issues that parent has forgotten to practice being a good parent.
That's it. I mean, you have the same thoughts that I do, and that tells me right there that there's many thoughts similar to that roaming around. And here's the really cool thing about it. We've got an email address. We've had the same email address since we've started this podcast, but we're using this in so many different ways now. And so echostoplive@gmail.com, echostoplive@gmail.com. That is the email address we want you to send questions to, not just for this show, but we want you to send those questions to us. If you're going to come to the town hall or you want those questions answered at the town hall, email us. I can't express to you how important it is to seize an opportunity when it presents itself and not be back and say, or sit back and say, I didn't go, but I'm frustrated, or I don't like the way things are going, but I have a concern. We want to hear that concern, and we want you to come alongside us as a participant in this idea that it doesn't just truly take all of us. It does, but it takes an Echo Stop Nation, and we need you to be part of that movement if we're really going to change the way dynamically that our communities are affected by violence, and how our communities can mitigate the threat of violence and change the way that we not only see what we see, but perceive how we live in a safe place. And so I feel like this town hall just gives us the opportunity, and if there's more opportunities like it, we'll take them. But we're going to start with 2.
I always say this. I've experienced this a time or two. There have been things that I've hesitated to go to because I didn't have the time, or I thought I didn't have the time, but I went anyway. And when I got there, I was like, wow, I'm glad I came. My hope is that everyone who comes, those who are thinking about coming, those who want to come but think they don't have the time, come anyway. Make time, because you'll be like, I'm glad I came because I'm glad I found that out.
Is that not, I mean, this sounds funny, but it's not funny at the same time. That's literally the conversation that I think you and I had the first time we sat in these seats over a year ago,
right,
to have that conversation. You're like, we're going to do what? And I'm like, no, we're just going to have a conversation. You're like, we need to have that conversation. And we had talked about that conversation for probably years before we had that conversation.
We talk about a lot of stuff.
Yeah, well, we do. The question is, what are we listening to? Right? And so here we are, wrapping up another great episode of conversation. And I feel like we're moving in the right direction. We're going to transform the way we do this podcast. Every minute that we have, that you guys have tuned in, we respect that. That's your time. That's valuable time. And so we want to respect that in such a way that we give you the most that we can, but really have that conversation. We want to talk about things that are happening in our community, not just things that are happening nationwide. That's important because it drives a lot of what happens in our community, but also to get real and have that real conversation. And, you know, I would say this, if somebody hears what we're saying and for some reason is bothered by the conversation we're having, you know, why? Let us know. Because if having a real conversation about what's really happening is bothering you, then somewhere there's a lack of movement and something to be done to fix the problem. Mm-hmm. And we need people to come alongside so that you're no longer bothered, but you're pleased. And I think that's the ultimate goal. When we're pleased to walk out and we hear the job well done come through our minds and into our bodies and our spirit as we're doing things, because God's in this with us.
Absolutely.
And you know, I'm gonna finish the way that I started, and I'm gonna throw it to you for the final feedback on this.
I'm gonna change that statement.
Yes,
we're with Him.
100%.
Because if we're with Him, we can't be wrong.
This is true.
Right. Okay.
But we got to do that in 4 special ways. We got to bring faith, family.
Right.
We got to embrace what we're teaching in the education system, and we need to have our government come alongside, not as a dividing element, but as a supporting element for the people, to protect the people. And that public safety concept is something that we're going to continue to see as a theme as we move through all of our conversations. And so I'm excited to be at the next town hall, which is Tuesday, this coming Tuesday. It'll be November 7th actually, and we'll be there at 6:30. And I'm looking forward to the conversations that we're going to have.
It will be a good conversation, and the great thing about the conversation will be that we will take questions after we share information with you, and I suspect that people will have tons of questions.
Well, I am moved, and as we intend to move forward with our show, I just want to let all of our viewers know, thank you for tuning in. We're not going to leave this show without a little bit of faith, and so you know, I leave you with the final thought of encouragement, and that is when we bring faith into the middle, our faith into the middle of every situation, then every situation will be surrounded by not only the God that you believe in, the God that I believe in, but the angel armies that are coming to protect us and defend us if we'll just do our part to stand up and do the fight. So I'm thoroughly encouraged, and I feel I'm blessed to be here and have that opportunity. And Curtis, I thank you for sitting alongside me, as you always have, a trusted and valued partner. And now it's time to go talk to the community and make a difference in Mobile and along all the Gulf Coast.
I agree.
We thank you for tuning in. We'll see you next Friday and every time in between that we post on our our YouTube channel. So tune in to the EchoStop Live YouTube channel, and you'll see more episodes about our EchoStop Nation. And we look forward to seeing you soon.